As Senator Johnson said, we are also fortunate and honored to have the Honorable Admiral Fallon to give the keynote speech. Thank you, Admiral, for accepting, and thank you for coming. This conference would have not happened if it were not for the hard work of many people. But I would like to especially thank Ahmad Kiai, who was here just before us, our new executive director. Ahmad has done an incredible job, and most of what you see is his job, and it's in a very short time. Thank you, Ahmad. Where are you, Ahmad? Or yes, Ahmad. There is no better time to hold a conference on U.S.-Iran relations than today, when the Middle East is rapidly changing. And there is no better place to have that conference than in this very hall, where just about a decade ago, Secretary of the State Madeleine Albright gave her historic speech on U.S.-Iran relations at a conference organized by the American-Iranian Council, when she expressed regret for the past U.S. mistakes, policy mistakes toward Iran. That opportunity was, quote unquote, missed, just to quote former Iran President Mohammad Khatami. And ever since, U.S.-Iran relations have traveled a downward path to further conflict, making it increasingly hard for the two sides to engage each other in a substantive and fruitful dialogue. There is a serious need for a policy innovation on both sides of this divide. But as long as Washington remains steadfast with its contradictory views on Iran, and the Islamic Republic's leadership views the United States from the prism of its Islamic revolution, a solution is going to have to be very difficult to design. Here are the standard Washington arguments. Iran's economy is in ruin, and the Islamic regime is politically unstable, just about to collapse. The regime is also unwilling to negotiate in good faith. Yet, it is also said that Iran is a rising power, and as such, it is a dangerous power, because a strong Iran is a dangerous Iran. And it is dangerous for particularly regional stability. And that a coercive policy can make Tehran bend or the regime collapse. The policy implications of Washington's views are easy to predict. Basically, impose more sanctions, spread more stern rhetoric, okay, and isolate the people from the regime. This is the same Bush policy I called some years ago, quote unquote, a regime change policy in the name of the Iranian people. And yet, historical record shows that no country has ever become democratic in the absence of diplomatic ties with the United States of America. And dictators with such ties to the US collapse easier than those without the ties. Think of Iran and Cuba and compare them to Egypt and Tunisia. Ladies and gentlemen, diplomatic ties and trade melt dictators. Sanctions and isolation fatten them. Let us hope that the United States government learns this simple lesson, born by its own experience, and apply it to Iran as well. From its very inception, in early 1990s, the American-Iranian Council has remained steadfast about its mission to bring the two great nations of the United States and Iran together as equal partners. We need your ideas and support in this endeavor. We are the oldest and among the most active organization focused on US-Iran relations. We took pioneering steps in this arena long before it became fashionable. And we have been a leader in deepening US-Iran understanding and promoting constructive dialogue. AIC leadership and conference speakers have included some of the finest American statesmen and strategic thinkers, such as the late Secretary Cyrus Vance, Vice President Joe Biden, Secretary Madeleine Albright, Secretary Dana Shalala, Senator John Kerry, Senator Bennett Johnson, Senator Chuck Hagel, Ambassador Thomas Pickering, Ambassador Frank Wisner, Ambassador Robert Pelletero, and now the Admiral William Fallon. We are especially proud that numerous breakthroughs in US-Iran relations have happened at the AIC events or have been mediated through the Council. These include the historic overture of the Clinton administration to Iran, Vice President Joe Biden's proposal for dialogue between the US Congress and the Iranian Parliament, and the meeting among Speaker Mehdi Karoubi, now a leader of the Green Movement, and other members of the Iranian Parliament and their American counterparts in New York City. We also invite your attention to the AIC white paper that the senator spoke about, and I don't need to repeat. We strongly support the human rights of the Iranian people. I wanted to be on the record. We strongly support the human rights of the Iranian people and condemn the Iranian government for the abuses. But we believe that the Iranian nuclear program and its human rights issues should be treated independently. We also believe that Iran's domestic affairs should be separate or kept separate from its international relations to avoid complicating their resolutions. We are opposed to sanctions of any kind and war for any reason categorically. We believe trade and diplomacy melt dictators, while sanctions and isolation fatten them, as I said. We believe diplomatic tie with the United States is a precondition for democratic change in Iran, and that no country has ever become democratic in the absence of good relations with the United States. Those of you who are for democracy, please take attention to this particular statement. This is a hypothesis perhaps, but it's well done. It's a challenge to all of our academics to prove otherwise. We are for better US-Iran relations, for a nuclear-free Iran, and for democracy and human rights of the Iranian people. We reject sanctions, containment, isolation, and offensive force as counterproductive toward these noble goals. We despise warmongering projects such as Iranium. I don't know if some of you have seen this Iranium film documentary, so-called, is around. Our long history of interaction with both governments indicates that all standing issues are negotiable. There is no non-negotiable issue in US-Iran relations. What is lacking is trust and political will. The prevailing neither war nor peace status quo does not serve Americans and Iranian interests, and it is not sustainable. We support negotiations between the 5+1 group and Iran, and we endorse the enriched uranium swap agreement between Iran, Turkey, and Brazil. I think that was a missed opportunity in the US side. We believe in a win-win settlement involving courageous compromises from both sides as outlined in the white paper of AIC. Moving forward, we are restructuring the council, introducing new board members, expanding constituency, and creating an online community. We plan to introduce a few projects, including the Real Iran Project, the Road to Peace, Shielding Iranian-American Project, and what we call the Soul TV Project, basically the Peace TV. We will update the AIC white paper as well, and we will do that as we shuttle between the United States and Iran in the coming months. Last but not least, we need your continued support, and we thank you for your past patronage, and we look forward to working with you for better US-Iran relations. Thank you for listening.